I love the earth because it's our home, and beyond its majestic views, all the systems work together to keep us alive. And we as a race often forget that we need the earth for our survival, and it's our only earthly home. Olivia, why do you love the earth?
Well, I love nature, and it is a reminder of God's love for us and a way to feel more in touch with your spirituality. And I feel like I was kind of raised to take care of nature and honor and appreciate nature by my parents and my aunts and uncles. They were always very tending to the earth and really respected it. Yeah. What about you, Toulon?
Yeah, kind of like what you said, I really love the earth just because it was created for us as a gift, but also because it's a gift, we're not meant to just destroy it, we're meant to take care of it. And that's also kind of why I care, is that since we were given it and since it's so beautiful and meant to everything in creation, including us, are meant to praise God, I really care about the earth because there are people suffering around the world and I can't just turn a blind eye to it.
Catholic social teaching is really the modern application of the gospel to challenges that we face today. And one of the primary tenets of Catholic social teaching is care for creation. So beginning with the book of Genesis, when God saw that it was good, Catholic Christians have for centuries been caring for creation, all that God has created, not only for the sake of human beings, but also for the good of nature itself, of non-human creatures as well. And so Pope Francis's recent encyclical on Laudato Si is the first major encyclical that's primarily devoted to the environment. But it's part of a bigger teaching, a Catholic teaching on the environment, which includes not only many scriptural passages, but also excerpts from encyclicals from Pope John Paul II, from Pope Benedict, and previous modern popes. So it's an integral part of our spirituality. As John Paul II said, he's calling for an ecological conversion in which we as Catholic Christians see ourselves as part of the intricate web of nature. And so that everything we do, especially the things that we waste, things that we throw away, the things that we produce, have an impact on the beauty and the goodness of God's created world.
So what causes me the most concern is that we're on a timeline, and with environmental concerns, there's a time constraint that we have to start working as fast as possible to make remedies and to start caring more about the earth, because we are not going to be the last ones on it, and we want to be able to ensure that other people can live on it.
So what concerns me is that people are suffering right now, but also future generations will continue to suffer, and not just hypothetical future generations, like our kids and our grandkids will see the consequences of our actions today, and they'll ask why we didn't do more sooner. But you know, it's been said that having kids is one of the greatest acts of hopes you can do, and so I do want to still believe in the future generations to come and believe that they'll have a better world than we started with. And also another thing that gave me hope was learning that the Catholic Church has official and very consistent messaging urging us all to unite and work together to be part of a solution.
What brings me hope is that we're actually starting to have conversations like these with the parishioners and with those around us that actually do make a change, and people who are able to make great changes in, litigation or with big companies see our work and see our conversations.
Speaking now as an environmental scientist, I can say that there are some deep and major challenges we're facing in the modern world that have not been faced throughout all of history, including the time when the scriptures were written. For example, there's so many more plastics and microplastics that are making their way into the ocean and affecting sea life as we know it, and which affects the subsistence of many people who depend on that sea life for their food. And when we destroy habitat, we're destroying not only trees and forests and grasslands, we're destroying the biodiversity of creatures and animals that are part of that habitat. And Many of these are beautiful in their own right, but also have usefulness for human beings as well. The largest challenge we have is with global climate change. For decades now, we've been pumping carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and that envelope then that surrounds our Earth has caused more heat to be trapped within our biodome of living, and so it's created havoc on our weather. It's created havoc on droughts and flooding conditions as the vapor moves through the atmosphere. So dry places become drier and wet places become wetter. And the people who are most affected by this are the poor, the people who really live on the edge and in tune with nature. It affects them tremendously. And Pope Francis brought this out in his encyclical when he talked about sin. He said, "Sin is manifest in all its destructive power in wars, the various forms of violence, abuse, the abandonment of the most vulnerable, and attacks on nature." And those two things come together in climate change and other environmental forms of pollution, the abandonment of the most vulnerable and attacks on nature. So especially those of us who are in developed countries and have greater resources need to pay very special attention, because the burden of sin is upon us. It's upon us to change our lifestyle, to adopt a simpler lifestyle, one that is less carbon intensive, that we might return nature to the intended state of creation that God wanted for His creatures. These perturbations of the environment cause mass migrations of people, causing much greater human misery as people struggle to find clean water and food. So it affects the poor first, but then it also eventually affects all of us, which is why this has been so important to Pope Francis to address these critical issues and to put it in the category of moral obligation, that we are obliged morally to pay attention to how we care for our creation, not only for ourselves and for the current generation of poor and impoverished people, but also for future generations who depend on these resources to be handed down to them upon when we die and when we pass on to our children and grandchildren.
To learn. So there's quite a bit we can do to care for creation. So one of the things I like to do is to do a lot of research, and whenever I have to teach a class, I like to have discussions with my students about what they think, so it doesn't seem like I'm pushing those facts to them, but they can, we can have a discussion about it. Beyond that, I also join groups like this, and another one where we speak to state legislators about, the environment and environmental issues. Now, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a great way to, get involved with environmental problems and show that you care. I do kind of the same things. However, also specifically for me, I'm going to school, learning about these things, and whenever they do pop up in my life, I actively search for, why are these environmental problems, important. You do your own research and educate yourself. I think that's most important, and then you join groups. So for me, I personally join groups like this one and other ones on campus or in my community. But then lastly, I'm going to school for environmental stuff. So just the way to get involved, learning, and education is a really big way to help out the environment.
We need to put this theology into practice. And so the Vatican has issued a 7-year action plan to put the principles of Laudato Si into practice. And over the next 7 years, we as Catholic Christians will be engaged more heavily in caring for our creation in various ways, either through our parish, perhaps through our Catholic school perhaps, or in other ways, even as families, we can contribute and participate in this. There are 7 goals as part of this 7-year action plan, and they are response to the cry of the earth. The earth itself is crying to be healed and to be brought back into balance from the original creation. And so greater use of clean and renewable energy, less use of fossil fuels will be promoted, and actions will be taken to achieve carbon neutrality. The second goal is response to the cry of the poor. As I've said, it's the poor who are most directly and most quickly affected by climate change and other environmental issues. Ecological economics are the study of the flow of resources from place to place and how that can be more sustainable. Adoption of simple lifestyles. We can all practice this and do this using public transportation whenever we can. It's not only simpler, but it's also healthier for us as well. Ecological education is a way of making people aware of the issues that are going on in our world and how we can better care for creation. Ecological spirituality. As the popes have said, we all need to go through an ecological conversion in which these actions become part of the moral fabric of our lives. In the same way that we love and care for one another, we care for creation. And then finally, emphasis on community involvement and participatory action. So at local, regional, and national levels, Vatican is asking us to promote advocacy campaigns, neighborhood organizations to encourage protection of habitats and ecosystems. All these things will be happening, and it'll be the Catholic Church behind it. It'll be Catholic Christians who are being nourished through the Eucharist and through the sacraments for their faith, but they're putting their faith into action for doing something to care for our creation. So it's going to be a very exciting 7 years coming ahead, and it's going to all kick off with at the feast of St. Francis in October of this year of 2021. Hopefully that's the goal, to get things in place and begin this 7 years of good work and good deeds on behalf of our creation. We are willing to care for creation. Are you?
I'm willing.
I'm willing.
I'm willing.
Join us.